Hi everybody, and welcome to All Fired Up's adult workshop. We're about to start. I'll give everybody a couple minutes to get on. If you can make a little comment so that I know that you're here, that would be awesome. Let me put mine on actually. Nope. So anyway, if anyone is commenting, hopefully it'll appear at the bottom. That's what usually happens. There we go. Samantha Donato is watching. Hi, Sam. And I'm sorry for using your whole name and ruining your anonymity there. So while we're waiting for everybody to get on, tonight we're doing the Mandala project. And this is what it looks like right here. I tried to set everything up so that you could see all of my stuff, but I just kind of succeeded in making a mess, so I'm probably going to be rearranging it a little bit so that you can see what is important at the moment. But tonight we're making the mandala plate, and if you would like to get started while you're waiting for everyone to come, the first step is going to be to paint the entire plate. I did front and back. You really only have to do the front. If you want to, you could do the front tonight and then go back and do the back later. Anyway, but we're going to do 3 coats of our darkest color. For most of you guys, that was blue or black or possibly purple, I think somebody may have chosen. But you're going to want 3 nice dark coats of that to start with. And you can go ahead and start on that if you would like. Another thing is some things that you have at home that will be helpful are you might have a ruler. If you have a ruler, that would be awesome. Makes it a little easier to find the middle of your plate, and you may want to reference how many inches out from the center it is. I think most people tonight are doing the rim dinner. We also have a pie plate that people could have chosen, or we also have a nice big charger. I kind of went small scale because you don't want to spend the whole time watching me. You want to actually get to work yourself. So while we're waiting, we've got Kay and we've got Samantha here. Let's see. I'm not really sure if Kay is one of our people that has signed on to and bought the workshop. If you haven't, Kay, and actually this is for anybody that's interested, if you happen to go onto our website and you see this after we've posted it, we still have those kits available, and this video will be on our page from here on out. So you can always come in and buy the kit and pick out your own personal colors and follow along with this video at a later time. Okay, it looks like Kay and Samantha are our only 2 people. Oh, and there are the Bushmans. Hi, Bushmans. Let's see. Okay, and yeah, we have a couple more people that are signed on for tonight, but I'm sure that they'll click on, and yep, here we go. We're getting everybody. Sally and Sarah, I was just saying that if you want to get started while I'm doing my little preliminary rambling, the first step is going to be to do 3 coats of a dark color. I did mine back and front. You really only have to do the front. I don't know, I must have been on a roll that day when I was doing the sample. Usually I stop here because I'm lazy and then leave this area white. But you can do whatever you want. We dip the whole thing in a clear glaze. Hi, Angela, good to see you. We dip the whole thing in a clear glaze, so if you leave any of the back raw, it doesn't matter. Looks like that's almost everyone. So the first step is to go ahead and find your darkest color. I have different paints than you guys. Well, I have the same paints as you guys do. I just don't have them in the cute little to-go cups. And I'm choosing to do mine in blues because my boss told me I could take this one home, and my kitchen is all blues, so I've got some paints going here. I'm gonna choose my darkest one, which for me is this navy blue, and I'm gonna go ahead and open up my little to-go kit if I have a to-go kit, or I'm going to squirt it on my palette if that's what I have going, before I put this away and get distracted. This is a drill kit. I mentioned to somebody that had popped in when I was here and bought a kit that if you have a, but now I can't remember who it was. If you have a drill kit, once we've painted our coats while we're waiting for paint to dry, the drill kit is something that you might want to go and grab. Not that we're drilling anything, but the more sizes of little dots that you have, the more fun you're going to have. And I had seen when I was researching this project, I had seen a woman who actually, instead of using little dotters, you can buy expensive ones of these if you get really into this, because it is very calming and relaxing. Instead of buying expensive ones of these, or once these disposable ones that we've put in your kit, I kind of got creative with what I had available. Sorry, I have a voter kind of thing popping up on my screen because that's the time of year. Anyway, these will eventually go, these disposable ones. So if you want to do this again, a drill kit is a really nice thing because it has a whole bunch of different size little chuck ends, and you can also use those to do dots. I apologize for the shaking. I have a tremor disorder, and when I get really wound up, which I am because this is fun, it kind of goes a little bit crazy for a little bit, but I will eventually calm down. Okay, so back to our project. First thing you're going to do is you're going to get your big brush out. Yours is a little bit bigger than mine. Take it, put it in your darker color, and go ahead and do your 3 coats. When you've got 1 coat done, it probably will be dry enough. Let's see how we're going. I might be getting ahead of myself. It might be dry enough to go ahead and start on your 2nd coat. It only takes a minute or 2 to get it to dry, especially the 1st coat, because the pottery piece tends to absorb it. If you were in the studio, we would give you a nice big fluffy sponge and have you wipe down the piece to remove the dust. That is a nice thing to do, but of course we are not able to send home a lot of the supplies that we have here in the studio. I honestly am pretty absent-minded, and I'm usually working with kids or other people, and I'm kind of concentrating on what everybody is doing and not really paying as close of attention. So most of the time I actually forget that step of wiping down the piece. And it doesn't really matter anyway because it's more of a comfort thing. That dust, our kiln gets to almost 2,000 degrees, so that dust is gonna burn off anyway. Same goes for if you should have any bristles, like I have a bristle that's coming out of my brush right now. If it happened to get stuck on my plate, like it just did, it wouldn't matter because it's gonna burn off in the end. Anyway, so there's 1 coat on the front. I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna do 1 coat on the back. So this is the 2nd adult workshop that we have done. I would love your input because we want to make these better. We're really hoping that they become popular. And you know, of course, this is a service industry, so we want to know what you want. So if you have any comments, you can comment them as we're going. And hi, Angela. I think I saw you earlier, but I probably was yammering about something. Anyway, So if you have any questions as we're going, feel free to comment. I am keeping an eye on the screen there. And also, if you get totally lost, the phone number for the store is 856-833-1330. And we will, that's something I should change. I'm going to start putting that on our box. We will give you, or you can give us a call, and I can talk you through it if you get really, really lost. But this is pretty, like I said in the advertising, this is a pretty calming, relaxing technique. It's not particularly stressful. The hardest part is finding the middle of the plate. So you probably are going to be fine. But don't ever feel like, I know I've done, my kids were doing karate, and the instructor was fabulous. We have a great relationship with the studio. But every once in a while my son would have tech difficulties, and I was kind of like, okay, now what? Because there's this voice talking, there's Miss Karen or the karate instructor chattering away on the screen there, and that person has no idea that I can't get my kid on this stupid screen. So if you have any problems, do not ever hesitate to call the store. Again, we love feedback. We want to make this the best that we can. So I've got my one coat, and you can see that it is almost dry. You can see that spot where I kind of ADD-ish started my second coat. This is the only spot that's wet. I can let that dry. It's probably a good idea to let that dry. While I'm letting it dry, this is a great opportunity to go either between the next coat and the final coat, and go find a ruler. And if you would like to use a drill kit, go ahead and find your drill kit. If you've got one of them hanging around, you can do that while we're watching paint dry. So mine is pretty much dry. I'm going to go ahead and do my next coat. While I'm doing my coat, I should be telling you, I'd like to tell you guys what's coming up. That's how you know. My boss, when I came in tonight, told me that we are having a gift card special. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about that, and we really appreciate your patronage, especially always, but especially now during the epidemic. You guys shopping local are what keep us small businesses going. And we haven't been able to do as many of our specials as we usually do. But today and tomorrow, you can go online. Our website is paint@allfiredup.com. And I should probably write that down and show it to you guys. I'm going to finish my coat while I'm talking, though. Today and tomorrow, 10/13 and 10/14, we're doing gift cards for 20% off. There's a code that you would need to use where it says use code, or what is your special code. The code is 20OFF, 20OFF, okay? So you can get any gift card amount, apparently, for 20% off. This is kind of news to me. I only have known for about 5 minutes longer than you guys have. So I'm going to go ahead. There's my second coat. I'm going to flip it over. Going to go ahead and do my next coat. If yours isn't dry, just wait. We will have a little bit of a pause and while we're waiting for paint to dry, and you can always just kind of go back and follow the video again later. I know that until I hit post, you only have access to the live video. So I'll kind of repeat steps when I think that there's a chance people might have gotten behind. But worst case scenario, just you know, have a glass of wine, and it will eventually be posted if you feel like you've missed something. Or you can comment, and I will verbally tell you where we are, or, you know, reiterate it. Okay, so there is my third coat. I'm gonna let that just sit like that for right now, because I like to do the top, the third coat, I like to end with it being the top one, because sometimes when you sit it on the table, like I have it seated here, that's not a phrase, but I have it sitting on the table here. Sometimes it scrapes off just a tiny bit on the edge, so I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm gonna flip it over, and I'll do my third coat. I'm looking off to the side here because I'm trying to think, what do I want to tell you next? This month we're doing the mandala. This will be on here, like I said, on our website whenever you want to do it. Like if you see it on here a month and a half from now or a year from now, you can call and you can order the kit. We're working on, you should be able to, starting later this week, you should be able to order the kit through our website. Like I said, that is paint at all firedup.com, and this is very professional. There you go. So it's just the paint at and then the name of the store.com. And the code, like I said, is 220OFF for the gift cards. There's usually a button right on the main screen that says click here for gift cards. If you don't see the one for this project and you want to join us at a later date, it will either be a button there, or it may be in that little pull down screen in the upper right hand side or left hand side. You know, when you were little, you teach the kids, or somebody taught you, when it says L, that's left. That's what I'm doing here. I'd never really outgrew that. So up in the left hand side, there's a pull down menu that you can look at and purchase the kit through there. And again, like I said, if you have any problems, once you get to the website, there's also the store phone number. Call us. We love to talk to people. We're more than happy to answer your questions. So my back is dry on my third coat. I'm going to flip it over. My front is still a little damp, so I'm going to keep yammering about other stuff that's happening. Well, it wasn't actually last month. Over the summer, we did a beautiful beach bag project. Some of you guys may have done that. I did it as part of our summer camps for our kids, and also I did it as an adult workshop. You can still get that one if you're interested. We have a couple more of them in stock. And just looking forward, next month we're going to do another technique, like the mandala is a technique one, and we're going to do a technique called sgraffito. In the past we've done that dry, and it makes that horrible chalkboard sound that when you drag nails across chalkboard, and it also creates dust. And sometimes like excessive amounts of that dust are not good for you. So we're always looking for safer, easier ways to do it. And we're going to do sgraffito, but we're going to do it wet. And this is a sample that I did years ago when we used to do sgraffito before. I will show you how to do this if you're interested in this. But since by next month it'll be November, and we'll start thinking about the holidays, I'm going to do a snowman sgraffito rather than do a round pattern like this. I feel a little bit like the debate. There's a fly in here that keeps getting me. That's partially why I keep making funny faces. So please no memes if it lands on me. I keep seeing it go by. Okay, so I'm going to do my third coat here. And this will take just a tiny bit longer to dry because there's more moisture in the plate right now. it looks like everybody is on that has a kit with them right now. If I'm wrong about that, that's okay. You can always watch it later. I found with my summer camps, actually, some people loved watching them in person, the kids' camps. They're a little more interactive because with the kids, I also get on Google Meets. It's kind of like the crazy hybrid that the teachers are all being real champs about right now in the public schools. But I've got my people going on Facebook Live for later, and then I've also got the Google Meets going. And I do that because a lot of kids can't, they can't stop and do a little comment typing because either they can't spell because they're too young, or it takes them a lot longer than it does us. Also, if you guys are anything like me, I like having the video recorded because then if I have to stop, I can always go back, or if my attention span fails me, I can come back to. So anyway, I found with the kids stuff that some people loved having the Google Meets, but then there were also people that didn't even try for the Google Meets, and they liked watching the videos like you guys are doing, or even watching it later. Okay, so I'm letting this dry. Let's see, what can I tell you? The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start doing the dots. So you're going to want to find the following things in your kit. First of all, grab a ruler while this is drying, because we're going to need to find the middle of the plate, and that's easiest done with a ruler. So you'll need a ruler from home. Also, I like to take a pair of scissors and take my tissue paper pattern. Believe it or not, this triangle is going to be our pattern. And just cut off a very tiny bit of the end of that so that when I unfold it, there's a hole. Okay. So scissors, your little paper pattern you're looking for. You're finished with this brush, you can put it in your bowl of water, or you can wash it now while you're waiting and then come back. If you do leave, say, hey, I'm checking out for a second, and then I'll make sure you're back before I go on. You've also got some, like I said, I was being creative. These are actually little candy sticks. You're gonna look for those, find your little toothpicky looking things, find your cotton swabs, find your marker. We're gonna use this both as a marker and also it makes a nice dotter. The end of it does. And also find, of course, your paints. I'm sure you've got them around. And you might want to be sitting them out so that I don't know, some people like to arrange them according to a rainbow so that they know which ones they're working with. If you've got any that are close in color, you might want to make sure that you know those beforehand. But basically, we're watching paint dry for the next minute or two and waiting for this to go. Some studios dry stuff with a hair dryer. We do not do that. We have found that it doesn't really create the best effect. It's better to be patient. It's kind of like when you paint your fingernails with nail polish and the hair dryer, if you use a hair dryer on the piece, the top is dry, like the top would be dry on your nail polish, but then if you bump it or if you draw on it or anything, it tends to skid off a little bit, and that's not, of course, the best end product that you can end up with. Okay, so I've got my paint drying. I'm gonna pop my head off the screen for a second here and see how we're doing on time. Okay, it looks like we are doing just fine. The other thing is, some of us are slow workers, that would be me, and then some of us are very, very speedy, and some of us are super prepared. Like, I'm not going to out her, but I know that one of the people following along today She's very much a planner, and I'm pretty sure that she already had her 3 coats painted and dried and ready to go for this workshop, because she asked me what she could do to get kind of a jump on it. And I think as I do these workshops more, I'm going to start doing that kind of stuff. Not things that you have to do, but things that you can do to make it a slower, more even, easy experience for you. Okay, my plate is just about dry. And I'm going to go with my ruler. I'm going to make sure I don't use that little bit at the end that's not actually part of the measurement. I'm going to line my first little thing up on here. I'm going to actually lean up and tilt this down a little bit. This is probably going to be epically, crazily messy, but I want to tilt that down a little bit so you can see a little bit better now that we're working a little bit more seriously. So I've got my ruler on here. This is theoretically an 8-inch plate, but it's actually 7 3/4. So half of 7 3/4 would be 3 1/2, 3 3/4. And then a tiny bit. You guys, it'll be a little bit easier. Let's see. If you've got the 10-inch plate, that's actually truer to size, so you can hit it right on the 5-inch dot. And I put 1 dot here. I actually am going to do it more as a line, because this is something my carpenter dad taught me. So I know that I've got that in the middle going this way, left to right, but I have no idea if it's right this way. So since I did a little dash, now when I measure the other way, I'm going to put it right up against where that yellow dot is with my marker. By the way, these markers burn off, so it does not matter at all what color you use, because it's not going to show up in the end. Also, if you should happen to make a mistake, as long as you don't dig into it, you're okay. So I did one line going one way, and then I did the other line going the other way, and this is what my dad taught me. So you can see the little, it's like a little arrow. That is actually more accurate because the point of the arrow is where they meet. And the way I got that arrow was I made a line going this way when I was measuring this way, and then when I was measuring this way, I made the line going that way. That's easier than trying to do 2 little dots and try to figure out where in the middle they go. So there's the middle of my plate. It's probably not as complicated as I just made it sound. Now I'm going to take my piece, and like I said, I cut the point off because it makes it a little easier. If you don't have scissors handy, that's okay. What you want to do is you want to unfold it halfway. Actually, we all want to unfold it halfway. And you can see that I've got like a little circle in mine. I'm going to line my little dot that I just made up with that circle. Can you guys see that? Okay. And then I'm going to, once I've got it on there pretty good, and if I didn't cut that circle, I would just kind of put the very point of my paper there in the middle. I'm going to unfold it and kind of flatten it out. And I can still see my lines. Now I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to take this marker. I can use the ruler if I'm a super picky person. But you can probably just go along without doing it. Draw kind of slow, because what you're doing is you are tracing through the tissue paper, or tracing the tissue paper on the fold lines, and then when we pull it back, you'll be able to see your lines because they will have bled through the tissue paper. This is a technique that we use for a lot of different things at All Fired Up. It's a great way you can print logos on the tissue paper. We can do that for you here. and or designs that you want to do, something that you've drawn. And then when you trace with the washable marker, it bleeds through. These, I wish I could say that they were fancy markers, but they're really not. They're just washable markers. Any brand will work. So I'm going to carefully trace all of these lines. And you guys can go ahead and do that. If you've got any questions, go ahead and comment there, and I will look up every so often and make sure that I'm seeing. Got a lot of people watching. Those people that are watching, if you've come on since I said this last, you can still order these kits. And the best way to do it for the next couple days is to call the studio, because we haven't quite got them online yet. We're gonna have to change it because this one had the specific date on it. And of course, that's now, so that won't work. If you're ordering it tomorrow, the program will tell you that it's too late. So I did, another thing I should tell you is when I folded this, I did it for the most complex one. The main thing is you want to make sure that you have your cross piece ones traced, and then so that it's divided into quarters, 1, 2, and then this is 3 and this is 4. And then at minimum do the one in between so that you would have 8 of them traced. But if you want to go whole hog like I'm doing, go ahead and do all, I think it's 16 of them. Tracing them. I'm almost done. I don't know how you guys are doing. And hang in there, folks, because this is like I said, this is really truly a relaxing project, but we haven't quite gotten to the relaxing part yet. As soon as we're done this tracing, the fun begins. Usually I throw in a little bit of art history or something that you might find interesting. I think I got off on a tangent about the Fauve artists and the use of bright colors when I was doing the beach bags. I'd have to watch that video again to see how I tied that in. The art teacher in me usually can come up with a connection. So I've got all mine traced. Looks like that. I'm going to sit here and watch the screen, and once you've got yours traced, if you will just give me a thumbs up, and when I see a couple of them, then I'll go on to the next step. Okay? So like I was saying, people that are not, that are just kind of spying on us today, this is a really fun workshop. You can do it with the rim dinner plate, which is what I did the sample with. We have a beautiful pie plate, which is great for this time of year. And then we also have a coupe charger plate that would make a beautiful serving piece for the holidays coming up. The way that we're doing these workshops, because we can't just, it used to be when you would come into the studio for one of these, I would tell you, pick out a piece and I'll tell you if it'll work for the technique. And it gave you a lot of freedom and a lot of different price points. We can't figure out how to make that work with our new online format. So what we decided to do was, for each of these projects, we'll give you 3 different price points. And there's the rim dinner for this one, there's the coupe charger, which is, I can't remember if the coupe charger or the pie plate are, which one is the medium and which one is the higher price. But that's how we came up with this. We picked 3 pieces in the studio in different sizes that would be a good fit. Okay, so while I am waiting for you guys to give me a thumbs up, I'm gonna put out some of my paints. Thank you, Angela. Angela's ready. I'm using Little Boy Blue, which is this color. Kind of trying to think of things to talk to you about. I'm using Something Blue. Which is a little bit lighter version of it. I'm going to use this bright blue, which it does not look like I got out. All right, I will be right back, folks. I'm going to go ahead and grab that for myself. Actually, since I'm up, I'm going to grab one more color. Okay, let me see if this is one of my people. It does not look like it. Give me 1 second. All fired up. Hello? Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so I see Angela is ready. We've got Sarah ready. Back to my colors. I have a blue kitchen. You'll notice if you start to like see a lot of these workshops that I kind of go with that theme, because then when my boss lets me take it home, it all goes together. That's something really fun that you can do with the pieces here, actually, is if you start to, when you come in with your kids and you don't really know what to paint, if you go ahead and do a dinner piece, and you just pick a color scheme that you enjoyed and you stick with it, what you end up having is kind of an eclectic set of dishes that all go together. So mixed in with my dishes that I've purchased, I have some that I've made here. And they're the same colors, so then when I set the table, it looks fun and artsy, and it still looks like it goes together, even though everyone is different, because everyone honestly tends to be the technique that the technique of the month that I'm doing here. So next step is we're going to start doing the dots, and the dots look a little bit terrifying and overwhelming, but they're really not. If you look at this one here, you can see the basic lines that we just traced. You can see the dots radiating out. The reason that I did this radiation pattern for you is because if you can stay on that, it's going to look like a mandala when it's finished. I kind of, and you may end up having this happen to you too, I kind of reached a point where I felt like I'd gotten a little bit out of control, but by the time I was finished, because I stuck with my lines, it all worked out just fine. And actually, I've seen some of these where the people went kind of completely rogue, and it still looked really cool. Okay, so I am seeing a couple people ready. I am going to see if I can figure out what time it is while we're waiting. Yeah, we're fine. Okay. So the next step is to do the dots. And I am gonna go ahead and do this. I'm not positive everybody that has signed up for the workshop today is ready, but I'm gonna go ahead and start just to get some people, to get everybody going. And like I said, I'll go back with the instructions a little bit, and I'll also, you can also always go on the video afterwards and watch it again. We've got the things radiating out from the middle. Now I'm gonna pick my other colors, and I'm gonna start with the base of my marker because I want a bigger circle in the middle because I think it's easier. And I'm gonna put a dot of paint. I just dipped this in the paint, and I did a dot. You can see that it's nice and full, and you can see that it's nice and solid, the dot. And I think you guys can see pretty good. I'm gonna actually pull you a little bit, tilt you a little bit further down. I tried a different table today. I don't think I'm gonna use this table next time because this is my big round table and I don't feel like I can really get close enough for you guys. So I've got my dot in the middle, and I actually really like this size dot. So I think that I'm going to do that same size dot and take your paper towel, or I'm digging around because I forgot to get my paper towel out. There we go. If you want to change colors at any point, just kind of wipe it off on the paper towel. If it's a hard plastic thing, if it's the cotton swabs, that won't work quite as well. So I could go around and do this bigger dot, but I think I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go with the cotton swab, and I'm going to dip it in one of my light blues. You can pick whatever color you want. And I'm going to go out. Some people are very careful about this and they measure out. Some people just kind of have at it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do a dot above, or for you guys it's above, for me it's below, and I'm going to do a dot on the other side. I feel like I'm going to do one on this side, about the same distance from the circle in the middle. That's the key thing, is making sure it's the same distance. And the same distance. Oh, I got that one a little bit further out. I'm just gonna pretend I did it right and not worry about it. Now this one here on the line in between, there's 3 lines between these 2 dots, and I'm gonna do the one, I'm gonna skip one, and then I'm gonna do the one in the middle. And I'm gonna do the same thing here. There's 3 between these 2 dots. I'm gonna skip one and I'm gonna do it in the middle. Same thing here. And you guys are going to take your time a little bit more than I am, and also sit your pieces closer to yourself rather than closer to the screen, and yours will turn out better than mine, hopefully. So my circle's not as perfect as it could be. This side over here looks pretty good. This over here doesn't look so hot. So the way that I'm going to cover that is I'm going to make this dot a little bit bigger. I'm going to do the same thing over here and just kind of fudge it a little bit until it's the size I want it. All right, I think that looks a little better, a little bit rounder. Now I'm going to go out, and I'm going to go out the width of my marker. I'm going to stick with the same color. It's kind of up to you guys what you do. I'm going to do it down here so you guys can see what I'm doing. On the same line as the dot that I did before, I'm going to go out the width of my marker, and I'm going to do another dot. See what I mean? And that gave me a little bit of space. And I'm going to do that for each of the dots. I'm going to pull that towards me so I can see what I'm doing. You can do whatever pattern you want. I'm just going to show you a little bit of basics. If If you want to sit back and watch for a few minutes, you can do that, or you can try to do exactly the same thing as I'm doing. I think I probably would strongly encourage you just to sit back for a minute and watch a row, okay? Watch me do just a tiny bit, and then you can kind of work out your own designs. So I've got my inner dot, I've got my inner circle. Now I'm doing an outer circle, and the reason that I'm doing this is because I want to show you guys a little bit of something cool you can do pattern-wise. I saw some people, when I was researching this, they kind of went crazy with the being really careful about it. They used compasses. I guess you could do that. The problem is that the pottery paint would tend to dig a little bit more than most of those people were using acrylic paint. And like I said, that inner circle that I just did looked a little bit rough, but now that I've gotten my next circle out, it actually looks pretty good. I'm starting to look a little more on track. See what I've got going there. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a little bit of fill-in, and this is what makes the mandalas look really cool, is when you start doing this kind of stuff. I'm going to take my littlest one. You could use a tiny drill bit, or you can use your toothpick. Believe it or not, these square little toothpicks, when you get the paint on them, you end up with a round dot anyway. And I'm going to just dip it in a different color, and I'm going to go around these. I'm actually going to switch colors so that you guys can see. No, I'm not. I think you'll be okay. I'm going to go around these, sticking pretty close to the dots. It kind of makes it look like a flower. I tend to be kind of relaxed about this, so I'm just going around until it's full. Some people will be like evenly spacing theirs. To each his own. Everybody's a different kind of artist, so whichever you would rather do. Got my little dots. Can you guys see that? See how I've got my inner circle, or I've got my dot in the middle, I've got my inner circle, and I've got my outer circle, and that one I did kind of use the ruler just to kind of space it so that I didn't get too far off, because I do want this to look round. Now I'm going around all of these, and I'm doing tiny little dots all the way around each of them. I'm going to pull that all the way in so you guys can see really good. There we go. Just keep doing that. When you watch this, like if you look for a YouTube video on mandalas, which I would, I want you to enjoy this project, but I would encourage you to look at those if you would like to, or just to get ideas. I also kind of feel like sometimes they're easier to see because ours is going to turn out dark, but right now it's not looking so dark because it's dried to that chalky color the way that the pottery paints do. So I'm going all the way around here. I managed to put myself in a spot in the studio where I cannot see the clock. And this is also the nature of Facebook Live, is that my clock on my phone, I can't see that either because that's not a screen that is showing me. So all that to say, if we go a little bit over, we go a little bit over, it's okay. But I'm going to work on this so that you guys have an idea of how to do it. Like I said, you can choose your own patterns. I like this one because it's pretty simple and it looks like a mandala when it's finished. But some people like, I saw some really beautiful ones done where instead of doing the little dots around it like they're doing here, like I did here, what they did was, I'm going to draw it with my marker. They kind of, instead of doing down here, they kind of did a shape like this. And that ends up looking really pretty also. That's the kind of thing, like, I'm probably going to run out of room before you because I'm using a smaller piece, but that's the kind of thing you can do on another layer out here. I'm going to show you a couple techniques, and then I'm going to kind of set you guys free and tell you to do what you want and come up with your own design a little bit. So I've got my dots almost all the way around on all of mine. I'm going to finish that out. If you are running behind me, or if you're watching the video later and you haven't already started with these flowers, then by all means, if you would like to do the kind of teardrop shape, it really does look beautiful on the finished pieces. All that being said, I have also seen ones where the people didn't do all of these ornate little dots in the middle. Instead, they started with a large dot in the middle, and then they went to progressively smaller dots going out on each of the rays on the radiating pattern that we used. And those look really beautiful too. They kind of make almost an optical illusion. They kind of have a mid-century modern feel. Hopefully this is starting to have that relaxing therapeutic thing that I promised in the ad, or in the advertisements for this going for you. When you start doing the dots, it kind of is, I think it's relaxing. So I've got this going here. Something that I can do is I can go back in either with the color that's already on my toothpick, or a different color, and I can put dots in the middle. I'm not going to be able to do this holding the plate up in the air. I'm not that graceful. I can do dots in the middle. If you've got a really wide design, I would encourage you to do that. Wait for it to dry to go back and do it. But I wanted to show you before I got too far that you can do, I'm going to use my popsicle stick here now. You can do dots in the middle, and those are a little bit close in size, but when it comes out of the kiln, what's going to end up happening, this is also a chance for me to kind of round this one out a little bit more. And if you notice, like I'm just kind of hurrying along here, and I'm more relaxed about it, and that actually there's something to be said for that, because that was a much rounder circle than the one that I was fussing over. That's often the case in art. But I wanted to show you that you can go back and you can do multiple layers of the paint. It just adds a little bit of depth. You want it to be at least dry enough that they're not going to run together, and also that you're not going to accidentally drag your hand through the pattern. That's what I did for these larger dots here. If you look at these closely, you can see that they're turquoise. It looks like they've got a turquoise rim around. This is actually a color called Sweet Pea. And the way that I did that was by doing the larger Sweet Pea, or the larger color turquoise, and then the smaller dot of Sweet Pea on top when it was drier. Normally when you're in here doing pottery, we tell you that you can't do light colors on top of dark colors, which is actually kind of the technique that we're going with. The reason that it's working for us now is because we are doing it so thick. When you do the dot technique, it comes out very thick, and because of that, you can do lighter colors on darker colors. There is an exception. I'm going to show you this. I used the cork to do these big green dots, and you can see that they are a little bit more translucent in the middle. I kind of like that effect. If you don't like that effect, you can take a paintbrush after it dries and just do, I'd say probably 4 coats if you're painting the circle in. I would do it first with the cork and then go back with the paintbrush, kind of like when you're in here and you do the stamping. If you want it darker, then you go back over it with a paintbrush. I guess the corks would work a little bit better than the stamps. You could try, once it's dry, doing another layer on there, but I think what would end up happening is that the outer edge is going to be real thick and then the inside is not going to be as thick. If you want to just do 1 coat like I did with the cork, one of the ways that you can kind of mask it is if you see I did the green with the cork and then I took, I don't even know what I took. I think I used my paint, my marker, and I dipped that in a lighter color and put that in the middle, and that of course came off thicker, so that kind of made it not so obvious that it was lighter here. And then once that dried, I went in with another dauber that was even smaller and did a little dot in the middle. So I've got a circle pattern going here. And I did, like I said, I did these dots every other one. Some people will like to do every single one all the way around. Again, that whatever pattern you choose to do, as long as you do it all the way around, working in layers, it's going to look cool when it's finished. And you are the artist, but it's totally up to you. But for this, I did every other one. Now I'm going to take my marker handle. I'm going to dip it in a color, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a dot in between. And that's going to give me a little bit more of that mandala look. I'm going to stop and think for a minute here. What color do I want to go with? I think that I want to use, I'm trying to decide what I want to use. I think I don't want to go crazy with using a whole bunch of colors with this one. So I think I'm going to go back and I'm going to use that turquoise that I used for the very middle, because another thing is repeating colors is a very good idea. Sorry about that. This is just another reason I'm not going to use the round table again. It tends to rock a little bit more than the others. But I'm going to repeat that color that I used in the middle. And I'm going to put that dot down. And if you look at it, I kind of nestled it down in between the 2 flowers. That's going to give me a pretty mandala look when I'm done. I'm going to work my way all the way around. I'm going to take my time, because I found when I was doing it before and I was just kind of rushing, you know, being relaxed and a little bit absent-minded about it didn't seem to harm my design, but when I started hurrying, I kind of lost that round shape. I'm going to show you, after I'm done this round, I'm going to show you another thing that you can do to kind of get it back on track if you feel like you're losing the roundness of it. Now, this one, just so you know, because everybody always feels like, oh, I'm not quite the artist that the person doing this is. This one, if you look at it, it's quite obviously too far in to be truly round. Part of me wants to really worry about that, but part of me knows that it's not going to show when I'm done. Once you get all of these dots on here, as long as most of them are pretty much on track, it's going to be fine. You're not going to notice. Typically, the only person who notices is the person who actually did it. Anyone else looking at it thinks you're amazing and that you did nothing, absolutely nothing, that didn't turn out well. I'm going to take this, my ruler here, and I'm going to, on this dot, I'm going to show you how to do that little spiky thing that I was talking about. And also just to make sure that I'm still on the round, I'm going to go I'm going to use the 1/2 inch because that's about how far from the rim I want it to be. I think that'll make a good distance. I'm going to put a dot with my marker at the 1/2, 1.5, sorry, 1.5 inches from the rim. Your distance will be much greater than that, but the reason that I'm doing it now is because as you work out, you do tend to get off round a little bit, and this will help you get back on round by occasionally doing something that measures, that you've actually measured. And this doesn't dig into your plate like if we were using a compass like they do when they do the acrylic paint. So I've got my dots going all the way around. And this is in marker, like I said earlier, the marker will burn off. I can't wait to see everybody's when you guys bring these back in. Speaking of that, bringing them back in, finish this tonight. You know, don't finish it tonight. It's totally up to you. It's supposed to be fun. When it is finished, bring it back in. You should have a piece of paper in your box. You can wrap it in that paper if you want. Honestly, the best thing to do, though, is to put it back in the box. And partially that will, like, take all the junk out, so it's just the tissue paper in your plate. But put it back in the box, and that ensures that we know whose plate is whose, because your name is on the outside of your box. We did that. So I've got those dots all the way around. Now I'm going to go back, and my circles, I'm going to hold this up here, and that means my lines are not going to be as beautiful as they could be, but so you can see. On my line, which is starting to dry here, I'm going to go back down towards my flower, and then I've got the dot up here, and I'm going to do a straight line like this, and I'm just going to keep doing that all the way around. I'm going to take it off. Actually, instead of that line, I think I'm going to do the teardrop I was talking about. So I just did a little swirl, and I'm going to do a couple more of these before I put the plate back up to show it to you. And I haven't actually done this one on a plate, so I'm not sure how it's going to look. But I'm hoping it'll look good. Like I said, this is going to burn off, so even though I'm not thrilled with my first one that I did, I'm not going to be too worried about it. See, I'm starting to get like a line around there, or a pattern around there that kind of looks like a lotus blossom. I'm going to trace that all the way around with the marker. What I'm doing is I'm going from the line that I didn't use this time, about parallel with the big dot that I did, and then I'm going up to the marker dot with like a curved little bit of a line. And everybody's, if you choose to do these, is going to look different. If you don't want to do this, don't do it. Just continue with the dot patterns that you were doing before, okay? This is totally up to you. There we go. So I'm going to take, I could do this two different ways. I could take my little toothpicky thing that I had been using, and I could just go along it like I did for my flowers, or I could do that with a slightly larger one, like this one here, just go along it, or I could do different sizes. I think I'm going to keep mine not too complicated, and I'm going to do them all the same size. I don't want to do the color that I used for the outside of these circles, or the outside of these flowers rather, because that's going to be too confusing visually. I might lose my pattern if I do that. So I'm going to pick a different color from my color scheme, and I'm going to go ahead and do those dots. I could repeat one of the colors that I have there, but I think I'm going to actually, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to repeat the lighter color because that's far enough away it's not going to matter. And I'm going to dip it in, and first I'm going to do it on the point of the lotus blossom and on the crease, just to keep the pattern going regularly. And then I'm going to go back in, and I'm just going to fill in right along my marker line, leaving a little bit of space so that it doesn't end up looking like a line that I've painted. It's, you know, the dots stay distinct. But I'm going to go along my line with my dots, and that'll create my pattern. I'm going to go all the way around like that. I'm actually not. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to do a couple of them, and then I'll save the rest to do later. By the way, if you decide to stop early tonight and you want to finish this, I found that taking a picture of what I'm doing helps a little bit in figuring out what colors they are later. Or you can just write right on your container of paint, you know, outer rim, or give yourself a little bit of a hint so that if you don't get confused later. See, I'm getting my way, I'm working my way around. It's going to take a minute. And eventually I'll get all the way around. So I'm going to show you, rather than finish that, because I think you guys can figure out, you just keep doing the dots all the way around. I'm going to show you another technique for in here, just to make it and then that's going to be, I think, my plate will be done. I can use a different color. I'm going to use the same color because I'm just being a little bit boring. But I'm going to take my little toothpick, and on that line that makes the point, I'm going to do 2 little dots with the toothpick. Can you see that right there at the top of the screen? And I'm going to do that all the way around. And then I'm going to go to my next largest circle after I've done that on each of the ones. And of course, I would, to make this really symmetrical and mandala-like, I would need to actually finish this, but I'm kind of just wanting to show you guys some more stuff that you can finish it out with before we run out of time. So I've got my 2 dots, and this is a technique that I've seen that looks really beautiful. And I did them with the smallest one. Now I'm going to get the next smallest one, and I'm going to use the same color. And I'm going to do another dot, or I might do 2 dots, depending on how much space I have left. Okay, mine, I'm running out of space, so I'm just going to do 1 dot in this size. And then I'm going to move to my cotton swab, which is my next size. And I'm going to do another dot on that same line. And if I had more room, I would just keep moving to bigger things. Like if I had more room, I probably would have done 2 dots in the popsicle or in the candy stick size, and then 2 dots in the cotton swab size. But you can see they get larger and larger as they go out. And you can work your way all the way to the rim. Some people like to do that. I actually like the look of a little bit of an edge here, so I'm going to stop with my pattern. But that's something that looks really pretty. I can go back in and do the, like I think I might do the reverse. I'm going to take my cotton swab and I'm going to dip it in a different color, and here in the middle, the cotton swab is my biggest, actually bigger than my cotton swab. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to take that marker tip, dip that in a different color. I'm kind of blotting off the excess on my napkin because I didn't paper towel because I got it really, really thick. I'm going to do that in the middle. See what I mean? And that, my marker line is starting to dry, so it might be a little bit hard for you guys to see, but that's the same marker line I've been working with. If your marker line at home dries too much and you can't see it, or you feel like you're not going to be able to see it soon, just go ahead and go over it again, like that, so that you can. You know, you're the artist, you can do whatever you need to do to make this easier for you. I'm gonna do my little dot here. Another thing that I probably should have told you sooner, I do a lot of this stuff unconsciously because, like I said, I have a trimmer, but sometimes hitting the spot I want to with the trimmer is a little bit harder than you would think it would be. So this is a trick that you can do that even if you don't have one, that will make your life a little bit easier. I'm bracing my hands like this, and my bottom hand I've actually got kind of leaning against the rim and also on the table, and then the pinky of my bottom one I've got on the rim of the plate. If I do that hard, the plate's going to flip up on me, but if I do it gently, it allows me a little bit of control trying to get that edge exactly where I want it. So I did my, or that dot exactly where I want it, I'm sorry. I did my largest dot. Now I'm going to switch to the cotton swab because that's the next size down. It doesn't seem like it should be, but the cotton swabs, I guess because they're fluffy, and they're a lot more absorbent, and they make a bigger dot than you would be expecting. And I'm going to do another dot there, just a little bit smaller. There, just a little bit smaller. And I probably need to reload. Go there, just a little bit smaller. Gonna go there, just a little bit smaller. Then I'm gonna switch from the cotton swab to the candy stick. I've got a lot of paint dried on the edge of my candy stick, which is making it bigger than I want it, so I'm just going to kind of roll that on the paper towel to get rid of the excess before I do it. Dip it in the paint. Do another dot. Another dot. Another dot. Then I'm going to take my toothpick and I'm going to do the smallest dot. So you guys can see by going from small to large, it creates a nice, beautiful pattern pretty simply. Those are the basic techniques. Like I said, I can let this dry and I can go back and do internal dots with the other colors. I'm probably going to, once I finish out what I've done here, finish it out on the other rays of the circle. I'm probably going to call this plate done. But it's a personal preference thing. You can go crazy like I did on this one and really fill up your plate, or you can leave the empty spaces. I've seen them done very busy like this, and also even more simple than this one. Like I had said earlier in the earlier in the video. I've seen ones done with a larger dot in the middle and progressively smaller dots out on all of the rays, or vice versa, a small dot in the middle and progressively larger ones out on all the rays. And that's all the person did, and they look beautiful. So this is a time for, at this point you want to go with your personal preferences, kind of have some fun. Everybody should look a little different. Just remember to stick with the radial design. I guess the art teacher in me should have been talking to you guys more about symmetry. The reason that the mandala works is because it uses something called radial symmetry. And what radial symmetry means is that it's the same over here as it is over here. And it's the same over here as it is over here. Normal symmetry, like your face, I'm gonna duck down. I draw a line down the middle of my face. I've got an eye on this side and an eye on this side. I've got, my students used to call them booger holes on this side and this side. Half a mouth on this side, half a mouth on this side. Basically, people are symmetrical. There's a lot of symmetry in nature. That's basic symmetry. There's also the radial symmetry, and that's things that tend to radiate out, just like the word sounds like. The mandala is a great example of radial symmetry, and tends to be, it really looks beautiful because of that. And like I said when I was working, yours may be perfect. A lot of you guys are more careful and precise than I am, so yours will be more perfect. But if you're more like me, it's still going to be pretty. So yes, go back to your design. I'm going to stop chattering a little bit. Well, I can promise that, but I probably won't actually stop talking. But I'm going to work on my design for a little bit more here. And like I said, do your own thing, whatever you want. See how we're doing time. And it's about 8:05. So there's no more new information if you want to sign off. Just to review, you want to finish this out with keeping your radial design radial, meaning that it's the same on each of the spokes. You can alternate between spokes. You need a little bit of math to do anything other than every other one, but it is possible to do that. And when it's finished, let it dry. And don't mess up the front of your design with this, but on the back of your piece, we're going to need your name or initials so that we can get this piece back to you. So when you finish today, or tomorrow, or a week and a half from now, or I don't know if you have, want to save it until the next time you have a day off and finish it. Whatever, we're very flexible on that. We don't mind at all. But when you're finished, you're going to let it dry completely. It's a good idea to keep your piece unwrapped until you bring it into us, because I don't know if you can tell or not, but you might notice when you're touching your piece, it looks dry, it looks kind of chalky, but it's still got a little bit of dampness in it. And if you wrap it up, sometimes that messes up the paint a little bit. So it's fine to wrap it up to bring it back in here, but leave it so that air can circulate around it until you're ready to bring it back. The best thing to do actually is to just sit it back in that box that the kit came in. Keep all of your supplies. These supplies actually still work. There are people that have, since the pandemic began, have been getting to-go kits from us pretty regularly, which is always an option still. But these paints will work fine with that to-go kit. So if you or your family, somebody in your family wants to do another workshop with us, you can use these paints. Just, I guess, you know, it might be good to have a little shoebox or a shelf in your house somewhere. If you'd like to do more pieces, it does not hurt at all to keep these paints. If they should happen to start drying out on you, the paints, the leftover paints, you can add a couple drops of water and stir it up when it starts to get that thick kind of look to it. And that will give it a little bit more life. Ultimately, they will dry up to the point where it's probably easier just to get more paint. But if you're like me and you want, you know, when you come in here and you sit and we say, what, you know, 6 colors, 9 colors, whatever, however many colors would you like, and you can't really stop. You're like, oh, and one more, and oh, and one more. If you're like that, like I am, it's nice having the leftover paints from previous projects to use. So like I said, you can save them. We do not want any of the supplies back. They are yours to keep, including the paint brushes. Partially that's our treat to you, and partially that is just a safety, you know, an extra precaution. We started doing that when we first opened back up because we were concerned about spreading germs unnecessarily and keeping all of our customers as safe as we can. So keep all those paint brushes. You can use them for other projects on your own. You can use them for future projects with us. Same goes for the paint. The best way to store your plate until you're ready to bring it back to us, like I said, is in the box with your name on it. Don't forget to put your name on the back somewhere. Do that in paint. You can use a fine brush. You can use, you know, one of the tools I didn't use was the skewer. But you have a skewer in there that you can use for little dots. You can also use it to scratch into the paint. If you paint this section in the middle with 3 coats, you can scratch your name in with the skewer. That's actually how I did it on this one. Let's see, it says. That is actually not done with a brush. If you've got a fine brush, of course you can use a brush, but I scratched that into the paint with the skewer. Anyway, we like to have your name or initials on your piece, like I said, just because we want to make sure that we don't confuse our artists and accidentally send you home with the wrong masterpiece. That is it for today. Thank you guys so much for coming in and purchasing the kits. Thank you for supporting us during the pandemic. Like I said, in November, we're going to be doing another workshop. It's going to be the Sgraffito. You can do a formal pattern like this if you would like, or going to be showing you how to do a fun and cute and super easy, especially compared to this, snowman in the Sgraffito technique, or wintry scene. And that's it. I'm going to call mine done for now, and I will see you guys next time. And like I said, any feedback from you would be wonderful. You can, you know, let us know when you pop in with your piece. When you do pop in with your piece, just so you know, it'll be about a week before the piece is finished. We have switched from we used to give a pickup date to our customers, but since the pandemic we have switched and we are now just calling you when it's ready. It's usually about a week. It's probably a little bit faster than you were used to if you were our customer before all of this fun and excitement that we're going through now. But anyway, like I said, leave it unwrapped until you're ready to bring it in. Just put it in your box. It is totally fine just bringing it back in your box. Loose, that box will protect it enough, typically from anything that you could possibly do to due to it getting it in here. I've seen people do all kinds of crazy things that are unnecessary. Like, I had one customer that practically shrunk wrapped their piece. That's unnecessary. It's actually probably not a good idea, because wrapping it in plastic will add moisture to the piece and could potentially change your design. So bringing it back, it's not a big deal. Just put it in the box. Don't worry about it. Bring it on in. And we look forward to seeing the pieces when they're done. And I can't wait to post some of these pieces on our page when they are finished. You guys have a great night. I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you in November for the Sgraffito Snowman. Bye-bye.